and let's share the presentation. Alright then, can you all see the presentation? It should say AICE, what's in it for you, and then it'll say presented by my name underneath that. Alright, that's great. Alright then, welcome everyone, both here online right now with me and anyone who might be watching this after the fact. I'm Benjamin Schneerman, and this is AICE, what's in it for you? As many of you may know, AICE is the Cambridge program. It stands for the Advanced International Certificate of Education, and it's a system developed by the eponymous University of Cambridge in England, a very prestigious university, in order to provide advanced opportunities to students throughout the world. So in this presentation, and the two that follow, on next Wednesday and Wednesday the 31st of March, we'll be going over almost everything that you need to know about AICE, and whatever we don't cover, you can always ask questions about. So to those of you who are here today, feel free at any time while I'm not right in the middle of a sentence to just unmute yourself and ask a question, or go to the chat. I'll be checking the chat consistently. For those of you who are watching this after the fact, feel free to shoot me an email at bschneermanbaria@gmail.com, which I will post after this meeting. And you're always welcome to get in touch with me through my Instagram if you have that, and I'll also post that after the meeting. So let's get started. Alright, hi everyone. I'm Benjamin Schneerman, as I already said. A little bit about me. There's a photo. It's a terribly grainy photo, but a photo nonetheless. I'm a junior at Fort Lauderdale High School, which is one of Broward County's 16 Cambridge schools. I'm a big Jeopardy fan. I love to read books, and I'm also the editor-in-chief of The Navigator, which is Fort Lauderdale High School's student newspaper. I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot about AICE. I've been an AICE student since the 9th grade. It's one of the main reasons why I chose to go to Fort Lauderdale High School. And I hope that you learned something from this presentation. Another little side note before we get started into the real meat of this first presentation. If you're not already following, please go ahead and follow Brace Cadets Instagram. It's just at Brace Cadets. Brace Cadets is just a program run by the county school board, where students help fellow students get involved in getting prepared for college and life after high school. I'm one of the Brace Cadets. There's many throughout the community that are working alongside me to make everyone's post-high school opportunities as wide as they can be. We'd really love it if you signed up and followed our Instagram so that you can get to know more about these great opportunities. During the third presentation, I'll be going into more detail about the Brace Cadet program in case you may be interested in becoming a Brace Cadet yourself and helping your peers through a service project like the one that I'm doing right now. So, as I gave a small little blurb at the beginning, AICE is the Advanced International Certificate of Education, run out of the University of Cambridge in England. It's a very beautiful university, as you can see in the photo. It's also very prestigious, and that may also be evident from the photo where you can see all these wonderful gardens and whatnot. Cambridge has set up the AICE program in order to provide an international education to all students throughout the world. AICE is available in almost every single country in the world. It provides a unified structure for all students throughout the world so that students, regardless of where they are or what opportunities they may have had, can compete on the global stage and get a good footing on for university and college life. So many of you who may not have had great opportunities in elementary and middle school may find that the AICE program is a great fit for you because it doesn't discriminate regardless of your educational ability. Yes, you do have to try and succeed, but you can really do it no matter who you are. AICE and Cambridge are generally used to refer to the same program in Broward schools. I'll be using the two terms interchangeably throughout this presentation and the two that follow. And just know that those terms are the same, pretty much, for the purposes of Broward schools. Speaking of the Broward schools that have AICE, and I think many of you probably go to these schools, but if you don't, or maybe you want to know more about the others, here's the 16 high schools that have AICE classes. Now, the number of classes that each school has varies. Some of these have quite a large variety. Cypress Bay, Fort Lauderdale, my own school, both have a lot. You can always check out the exact classes, that each school has by going to the school website, going to their curriculum page and looking at their course guide, which should give you some more information if you're one of those who are looking at high schools to apply to if you're in middle school, or if you may be looking at transferring into one of these schools. On the right, you'll find a map of where all these schools are located, and there's also a link in this presentation to that map so that you can get a look at where these schools are and get their addresses and websites. So now let's get into the real meat and potatoes of AICE, a real description of what it is. So many of you who are already AICE students may or may not be familiar with this. AICE has two levels. One is the one-year program, the AS level, and the two-year program, which is called the A level. They're both unified in the sense that they share curricula, but they're very different in the regards to their difficulty and in the actual content. The AS level is just the one credit that you get over the 1 year. It's considered easier material. And it only has 5-letter grades, from A down to E. E is the lowest, A is the highest you can get. There's also the additional grade of U, which is ungraded. That means you won't get any credit whatsoever. And then the A level, which less of you may be taking, but some of you may be familiar with. It's 2 years, it builds on the AS level, and in fact it supersedes the AS level. You're required to take the AS level before taking the A level in Broward schools. However, it is possible to take both credits and all the papers at the same time. We'll get into more detail about what I mean by papers and what exactly this entails. And last but not least, because of the additional difficulty of the A level, you have the additional grade of A star, which is above A, and is usually reserved for the top 1 to 5% of students. Speaking of those exams are the main way Cambridge assesses your learning and gives you a grade. There are a few courses where there are more practical elements or some presentations, most notably the course Global Perspectives, which we'll be talking about in great detail as it's incredibly important to Cambridge. However, most Cambridge courses rely on these exams. They're given twice yearly, in June or November. November in Broward schools is usually only used for resits, that is to say, retakes. If you get a U or a failure on an exam, you'd be invited to take the November exam at your own expense. There's generally 2 papers per year. That is not a hard number. There are some that only have 1 paper and they may have additional practical components. And there are a few that have 3 papers in a year. I've never heard of an AICE class that has more than 3 papers in a year. That means you'd be studying for 4 papers at the A level. Exams are given in the morning and afternoon. There's often multiple exams in one day, and that is absolutely something that you will have to deal with. I have had to do it in the past, in my first year as an AICE student. They seem to like, and by they I mean Cambridge, love to set the exams for the same day for students who tend to take both of those exams. So often you'll have an overlap of, say, history and English, which is how my exams would have gone last year had they actually done the exams. Or they may do English General Paper and Marine Science on the same day. Just know that you may have to sit for 4 to 5 hours on one day. Luckily, you'll be well prepared to write that much, and there's a lot of writing involved in Cambridge exams, and you'll have good experience throughout the year. These exams are not extremely difficult. There are some that are more difficult than others, but in general, the papers are fair, and you'll find that you can get a good score as long as you try your best. Alright, just checking the chat a little bit to see if everything is going well. Looks like that's all good. Okay, there we go. Now, I realized when I was looking at the statistics for who had signed up for this presentation that a lot of you are 9th and 10th graders. And that would mean that none of you have ever actually sat an exam before. Because, as you may know, last year, the exams were canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Instead, Cambridge relied on teacher assessment, so your teachers gave you grades. This was a controversial, though arguably necessary measure, and I won't be getting into the actual politics of it. Just know that Cambridge are not likely to continue that this year. They have, for the time being, kept the exams going for this year. They're still on, and as far as I can tell, Broward Schools still wants everyone to take the actual exams instead of doing teacher assessment. With that being said, it's probably a good idea to get used to the idea of an exam paper. It's a very quintessential document. Almost all of them look the same, at least on the cover. This one's a history examination. It's the paper 1. You may be familiar with this if you're a 10th or 11th grader studying for the US or European history, or maybe international if you're at one of the few schools that offers that. A couple things to note here is that every paper will have your subject name, there will be allotted time, and there will be important instructions. Cambridge is very big on following instructions and using the information provided. That's the main takeaway I want you to have from this slide in particular, is just get used to the idea of Cambridge being quite direct with what they want. As for after exams in a normal school year, the exams are usually given in April to June. Despite them being called the June examination series, the majority of them are actually in May. And there's even a couple in April. I think the general paper is given in April, and so is Marine Science. It's usually given on that last week. During the second semester, you'll have class selection for the next school year, including AICE. Your exact requirements for enrolling in an AICE class vary significantly depending on what school you go to, General guidance is that you should be getting 4s and 5s on your FSAs, both your math and reading, and that you should have generally good grades in any prerequisite courses. For example, AICE Biology, which is one of the harder exams, generally requires that you take the normal biology and then chemistry to be prepared for actually taking AICE Biology in your 11th grade year. Around or even on the first day of school, we'll have your results will be released. Those are unofficial results. So that means that they could be changed later on, though that is rare, and they won't be official until actual certificates are issued, which occurs all the way in January. The reason why unofficial results are released so early is because you may have to resit an exam. Resits are not common, but they do happen. Sometimes things occur, and that's okay. If you do not get a sufficiently high grade on your exam, you'll be invited to resit the exam, usually at your own expense. At least that's how it works at Fort Lauderdale. I cannot talk about the experience at other schools because I'm not personally involved in that, but I have seen how the reset procedure works in the November series at Fort Lauderdale, and I imagine it works quite the same at most schools. So one of the main questions that I've seen is, how does AICE differentiate from AP? And it's a very legitimate question. AICE and AP, they're both advanced. AP, of course, stands for Advanced Placement. They're generally geared towards higher achieving students, or at least students who are looking to get into good universities. And of course, the logical question is, why should I take AICE over AP? Well, the answer to that is it depends on who you are and what kind of ideas you have about what you want to do with your future. But here's a general overview of AICE versus AP. AP has the capstone diploma, which is a 3 or higher in the AP course called Seminar, and then 1 in Research, and then you'll have to take 4 general AP classes. APs are generally in between the AS and A level in terms of difficulty. However, the college credit level is significantly increased. At Florida State universities, you'll need a 3 or better for sure to get AP credit, and at many of the top national universities, you'll need a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam. AP doesn't have a passing grade per se, but generally a 3 is considered passing. For AICE's entire thing revolves around the AICE diploma, which we'll talk about in the next couple of slides. For an AICE diploma, you'll need an E or higher in global perspectives, as I mentioned previously, and 6 other courses. And I should clarify that by 6 other courses, I mean 6 credits. You can take up to 3 A levels and get the AICE diploma, or you could take 6 AS levels. It's all up to you and what you have available to you at your school. As I mentioned previously, AICE has 2 levels of difficulty. For college credit, however, the bar is significantly lower. For Florida State universities, at least, you'll need an E or better. So that's any passing grade will get you credit. At national universities, however, it's similar. You need a B or a C, depending on what specific university we are talking about. In our third presentation, I'll be giving more information about how to find what kind of credit you can get at college for AICE. Just going to check the chat here. Alejandra, she asks, can you take AP and AICE? And the answer is absolutely. If your school has both, you can definitely take both. In fact, I would recommend you take both. Generally, guidance counselors don't want you to take above 4 advanced classes, and they will count those together. So you will have to keep in mind that if you're going for the AICE diploma, which is an E or higher in 7 courses, you'll need to take 3 or 2 courses in a year, which means you'll only be left with 2 or just 1 slot open for AP. Now, of course, if you're a really precocious student, you could take 6 AP and AICE classes together, and that could work out for you. So one of the great things about AICE is that you don't have to take the diploma, and you can just mix and match everything as you wish. Hi CJ, sorry about that. I'm currently going through the presentation, so I didn't get to get you in as soon as you came in. Once again, my apologies. So, the AICE diploma. It's the biggest thing about AICE, as I mentioned previously. You need 7 credits in 3 years or less. Specifically, it starts counting 2 years after the first exam you take. That would usually be in June of your freshman year, which means you'd have to complete it by June of your junior year. The AS, as I mentioned previously, counts for 1, and the A-level counts for 2 credits. These credits must come from 3 different subject areas, and one of them must be global perspectives, which I'll talk about finally, I believe on the next slide, and earning the diploma waives certain requirements for bright futures. We'll talk a lot more about the 3 different subject areas in our second presentation, where we'll go over the AICE courses in way more detail. And we'll talk about bright futures and how this plays into that, how this AICE diploma plays into bright futures in our third presentation about college and how AICE can help you there. Excuse me. Here's a fun little infographic from AICE themselves, from the Cambridge assessment. As you can see, you'll need 7 credits, and the 3 groups that you need to worry about are math and science, languages, arts and humanities, and then the core, which is global perspectives. Global perspectives is an interdisciplinary subject. However, unlike the interdisciplinary subjects in Group 4, which you can see on the outside, it's mandatory. Global Perspectives challenges you to think critically about all aspects of your education and the world around you. You'll have to do a research project with several other classmates in which you will study one aspect of a critical question on the world we live in today. Then you'll make a presentation on that subject with your other classmates doing different presentations based on what area they looked at. For example, I took AICE Global Perspectives in 9th grade, and my question was related to militarization of space. I ended up focusing on the military aspect of militarization in space. But another of my friends looked at the economy, another one looked at the political implications of militarizing space, and in general we came to a conclusion as to whether or not this was a good or a bad thing. You'll have to do something similar, but it doesn't have to be so widespread. You can even do a project about something that's happening locally, as long as you can relate it to the global culture and society as a whole. You'll realize as you take other subjects that Global Perspectives really helps you practice your presentation and writing skills. You'll also have to write a research paper of 2,000 words, I believe. On a similar question, though, you get to do that alone. So you'll find that Global Perspectives does fit the core message of AICE, which is a global education for a global future. In general, just keep in mind that you'll have to take courses from various subject areas, as well as the global perspectives, which is combining everything into one, so to speak, in order to achieve the AICE diploma. AICE diploma points. AICE diplomas are given one of 3 ratings depending on the point values of the constituent courses. I'm just reading off there. This isn't super important because all AICE diplomas are considered equal for your graduation and bright futures. So don't worry too much about this, but if you do hear from some of your seniors about how they may have gotten just a pass or a merit on their AICE diploma, here is a table describing that. And that basically wraps up every main thing I wanted to say about AICE. Cambridge has their website where you can go into specific detail about particular courses. There's also the map of schools I presented earlier. And now is a great time for any questions you may have. I didn't notice too many during the presentation, so I'd love to know if you have anything to say. CJ asked, do points matter? They do not in themselves. Your grades matter because your letter grades on the AICE exams do matter because you need the 7 E's to graduate, to get the AICE diploma. But in terms of the points, they're just a way of calculating for the pass or the merit or distinction. Some schools may give particular honors to students who achieve a distinction or a merit, which is given for higher points. However, don't worry too much about it. However, some students do get the idea that the points do matter, and I just want to make clear that they don't really matter. They're just there as an additional measure. CJ, E is passing. E is definitely a pass for Cambridge. It's the lowest passing grade. It does not mean you failed, it just means that you got the lowest passing grade. Alejandra, yes, I will put my Instagram in the Google Classroom later, but if you want, my Instagram is reefstonemidi, which I will type in the chat right now. Yeah, that's a general overview of the AICE program. I talked about as much as you'll have to write on one of these papers. It definitely makes me a little thirsty. How many of you are actually in AICE right now? Just show in the chat, if you will. So that makes 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Roger, CJ, Cassandra, Andre. So it makes 4 or 5 of you? Well, that's great to hear. How is it going for you so far? Fun. Yeah, it can be fun. If you apply yourself and you're in a course that you enjoy, especially if it's with a really fun teacher, it can be really rewarding to study AICE. I think that's one of the things that differentiates AICE, is that it sort of brings you back to the fun of learning, if you're lucky, of course. Yeah, CJ, that's really important. Passing it does mean you're going pretty good, I think. definitely agree with you there. So if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask right now, it'd be really appreciated. Of course, if you want to ask a question now, since someone else may have the same question, so they can hear the answer at the same time. But don't feel pressured to ask a question right now. If you want, just text me on Instagram or email me, and I'll be glad to answer any questions there as well. So yeah, just keep at it if you're already an ACE. If you're not, do your best in your classes and try and get into ACE. It's a really rewarding program. My personal experience has been really great. I've had some of the best teachers I've ever had, and I've been able to learn some interesting things. This is a little thing that I'm not really going to mention elsewhere, but ACE classes can have some really niche topics. For example, this year I'm studying ACE A-level English. Last year I took English AS level. A-level English is all about linguistics, in fact. It's really cool. You get to study about how little kids actually develop language skills from 2 to 5. And they also teach about global English. So if you're interested in weird little things like that, there may really be an ACE course for you that's really on the nose for you. Cassandra asked, I heard the grading scale is higher with ACE classes. What's that like? Cassandra, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Do you mean grading for the ACE exam or grading for normal classes, or do you mean your GPA?
The class itself.
The class itself. Your classes are still graded on the A to F scale in terms of your actual class grade. You still receive, of course, a normal class grade. So,
Got it. Thank you.
Roger asked, do you know what parts of Bright Futures will be waived if you have the ACE diploma? Yes. I'll get into more detail about this in the third presentation, but for now I'll give a short little blurb, which is mainly it involves your SAT scores. I believe you still have to meet your GPA requirement. That may change, which is something I will talk about in great depth during the third presentation. You may or may not know that currently the state legislature is looking at changing Bright Futures. It's called Senate Bill 86. It's currently in the state legislature, and that may change things. It's currently under consideration or something. So for right now, it mostly has to do with the SAT. Alejandra, I can't answer that question because I'm not exactly sure what's in the law. I have heard that it's going to affect what sort of majors you can go into and what kind of college credit you get for how college credit affects Bright Futures when you're coming in with college credit before going into college. However, because it's not a final law, I cannot say for sure what it will look like. So, yeah, that's the rundown on, not a rundown, but a short little thing on Bright Futures and ACE. If you want to know more about what's going on with Bright Futures, I can give you a link to some resources for that. If you text me on Instagram, yeah. With that, that's all I have to say, so if there's no more questions, I'll wrap it up here. All good? Alright then, everyone. It's been great to have you all. I hope you have a great, wonderful rest of your day, and that you guys join me next Wednesday at the same time for our second presentation. That presentation will deal with AICE classes. You also get to do a questionnaire that will help you out in discovering what AICE classes may be best for you, and it'll also help you get started on the idea of planning your AICE future. Same time next Wednesday, that is the 17th of March. If you can't make it, of course, I'll be recording that one just as I have this one. For those of you at home that aren't with us live, same thing. I'll be recording the next one as I did this one. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in a week's time. Bye, everyone.